All right, get ready to dive deep today, folks, because we're tackling the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Ooh, a classic.
You sent over the 25th anniversary edition, so clearly this book still resonates with people.
Absolutely.
What is it you were after with this one?
Yeah.
It seems like you want more than a simple recap. You want like the core essence and how to actually live it.
Right. That's it. Spot on. It can be pretty easy to skim the surface, but we are going beyond that today, digging into the details and how Covey's principles can be used in real life.
I like it. A real deep dive.
Right.
So before we get into each habit, can you give us an overview of the message, the foundation?
One of the most interesting things about Covey's approach is that he doesn't offer quick fixes or shallow techniques.
Okay.
It's more of a principle-centered approach,
Okay.
a way to think about effectiveness that goes beyond specific situations.
So it's more about mindset than like a checklist.
Yes, exactly. A key idea is the maturity continuum. It's a journey.
Okay.
From dependence, relying on others, to independence, self-reliance, and finally interdependence, the power of collaboration.
So from you take care of me to I can take care of myself to we can do more together.
Precisely. And that journey is made up of what Covey calls private victories, the inner work, the personal wins that have to come before the public victories of success with other people.
You can't have good relationships if you haven't figured yourself out. Right.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
So true. Let's jump into the first habit. Be proactive. It's a popular buzzword now, but what does it actually mean within Covey's framework?
It's much more than taking initiative. It's recognizing your ability to choose how you react to anything, focusing your energy on what you can control.
Less worrying and more doing.
Right. And Covey uses this idea of the circle of concern and circle of influence to show this.
So,
The circle of concern has all those things we stress over but can't do anything about: the economy, politics, others' choices.
yeah, I think we all spend too much time in that circle.
It's human nature, but dwelling on it doesn't change anything. The circle of influence is all about what you impact: your attitude, habits, skills, and how you react to things.
So instead of complaining about traffic, you find a new route or use that time to learn something.
Exactly. Covey has a great story about an executive who turned around a terrible relationship with his boss by doing exactly this.
Yeah, this is interesting. Lots of sticky notes and maybe a Zen garden. What did he actually do?
He started by anticipating his boss's needs.
Okay.
Instead of bringing problems, he came with solutions.
Oh,
He focused on good results and being reliable.
so he became indispensable by focusing on his own actions and not trying to change his boss's personality.
Exactly. His mindset went from "my boss is the problem" to "how can I make this better and more productive?" And it worked.
Wow.
His boss relied on him more, trusted him more, even respected him more.
A great example of how taking responsibility for your own actions can have a huge impact, even when you feel powerless.
That's it.
Proactivity is more than getting stuff done. It's owning your choices and influence.
Exactly. And that brings us to habit 2, which takes proactivity and looks at your whole life. Begin with the end in mind.
Okay, this one always seems a little ominous. Are we planning our funerals?
Not quite, but he uses some strong imagery to make you think. Imagine you're at your own funeral. What are people saying? What kind of life did you live? What's your legacy?
I see. So define your values and goals so you can live a life that matters to you.
Yes.
Covey says it's super important to have a personal mission statement based on your deepest principles.
Not just some corporate buzzword.
Right. It's about articulating what truly matters to you and using it like a compass to guide your decisions.
Like having a North Star.
Exactly. And to show this, Covey tells this story where a man asks, how much did he leave? About someone who just died. The response is, he left it all.
Wow, that's powerful. Possessions don't matter. It's the impact you have on people that counts.
Exactly.
But this habit isn't just about the far future, right? It's about how we live now. Absolutely. Covey talks about Bill Gates and how he used habit 2 in building Microsoft. He didn't just start coding randomly. He had this vision of a computer on every desk and used that as his guiding principle.
So he had the end in mind from the start, and it shaped his entire career.
Exactly. We can all do that, whether we're building an empire or trying to have a good life. It's about having a destination and planning how to get there.
Very empowering. Like we have more control than we think.
That's the idea. The 7 habits are all about taking responsibility, being intentional, and creating the life you want.
Love it. I feel like we have a lot more to cover, but before we do, let me remind listeners that there's a link to buy the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in the description below.
Great.
Don't forget to check out the One Book a Day YouTube channel for even more awesome book summaries. Back to the habits. What comes after defining our end in mind?
Once you have a destination and a compass, you need a plan, a way to manage your time to make that vision reality. And that's
Yep.
where habit 3 comes in. Put first things first.
Classic time management. Prioritize, make lists, and get things done.
It's about prioritizing, but with a Covey twist. He separates leadership, the first creation, which is setting your mission and priorities,
Okay.
from management, the second creation, which is how you actually achieve those priorities.
Not just being busy, but being busy doing what matters, what aligns with your goals.
Yes, being intentional, making sure your actions match your overall mission. And Covey introduces this tool to help, the time management matrix.
Okay, what's so special about this matrix?
It divides tasks into 4 quadrants based on how urgent and important they are.
Okay.
Quadrant 1 is for emergencies, things that need immediate attention.
Got it.
Quadrant 2 is for things that are important but not urgent planning, relationships, personal growth, and prevention.
Most of us spend too much time in that first quadrant, right? Putting out fires. But it's quadrant 2 where the real progress happens.
Yes. Covey says quadrant 2 is where effectiveness really lies.
Hmm.
It's about preventing those quadrant crises from even happening.
Interesting. I am definitely guilty of getting caught up in those urgent but not important tasks. Any tips for escaping that cycle and getting some quadrant 2 time?
First, you need to be aware of how you spend your time. Track your activities and see where they fall in that matrix. You might be surprised how much time is going to things that don't matter.
Ouch. But that's the first step to changing it, right?
Right. Next, find those quadrant 2 activities that are truly aligned with your goals and values.
Yep.
These are the things that, if you do them regularly, will have the biggest impact on your life. Maybe it's spending quality time with family, working on that passion project,
Yeah.
learning something new, or taking care of yourself.
I see the connection to begin with the end in mind. These activities in quadrant 2 are what move you closer to your vision.
Exactly. Then you have to schedule them into your week.
Good.
Don't wait for free time to appear. Make time for the things that matter.
Less time management and more like life management, right?
It is. Habit 3 is about taking control so you create the life you want, not just let life happen to you.
Makes sense.
Covey shares a story of how a group of shopping center owners made their business way better by focusing on these quadrant 2 activities.
All right, tell me about these shopping center gurus and their quadrant 2 wisdom.
They realized they were always putting out fires, dealing with complaints, contracts, all quadrant stuff.
Yeah.
They decided to focus on building relationships with the store managers, understanding their challenges, and giving them support.
Okay.
They became mentors and problem solvers, not just enforcers.
They invested time in building trust, even if it wasn't urgent, and I bet that paid off.
Huge payoff. The managers felt valued, and that led to better morale and productivity.
Okay.
Those shopping centers became desirable places to work, attracting better stores and making more money.
So win-win for everyone.
Exactly. The time management matrix in action, neglecting those quadrant 2 activities can cause a ton of problems down the road.
This is resonating. I think I need a little quadrant 2 time myself to process all of this.
Good idea. And when you are ready, we can get into habit 4, which builds on this by creating win-win situations in every part of your life.
I can already tell this is going to be big, but I think we need to take a break first. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. All right, we left off on habit 4. Think win-win. And it might sound a little cheesy, but Covey goes deeper than just being positive.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes win-win seems too good to be true, especially these days.
A lot of us have been taught to think win-lose, like it's a zero-sum game where if someone else wins, you lose.
Right?
Like, think about those reality shows where people are always trying to take each other down.
Yeah, those are brutal.
Not exactly healthy, is it?
No, really. So how do we escape that and actually get to win-win?
Covey says it's about changing how you see things.
Okay.
Adopting what he calls an abundance mentality.
Uh-huh.
Basically, there's enough success for everyone.
Interesting.
One person's success doesn't take away from yours. It's about collaborating, not competing.
So instead of fighting over slices of pie, we bake a bigger pie. Perfect analogy. And this isn't just some feel-good idea. Covey gives real examples of how win-win actually works better for everyone. He tells the story about a store owner who thought win-win only applied to customers, not his suppliers.
Ah, so classic zero-sum game. The supplier is the enemy.
Right. He thought to get the most profit, he had to get the lowest price from suppliers.
Yeah, makes sense.
Covey pointed out that this store owner is also a customer to his suppliers, and if he approached those relationships as win-win, it could be really good for him.
Interesting.
Working with suppliers could mean better products, faster delivery, maybe even better prices overall.
Wow, that's clever. Changing his perspective opened up opportunities that wouldn't exist in that win-lose way of thinking.
Exactly. And Covey says this applies everywhere. Business deals, relationships, everything.
Yeah, it's not just about looking out for number one.
Right. It's about solutions where everyone benefits.
This is making me rethink how I approach things. I'm so used to just trying to get what I need. I don't always think about how to find a solution that works for everybody.
It's easy to fall into that trap. The cool thing about Covey's idea is that it makes you think bigger than just your own wants.
This win-win thing, I'm on board. But it sounds like a lot of work to shift away from that win-lose mindset, especially if you're used to it. What if someone's ready to try it but feels kind of overwhelmed?
It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts and words. Are you always thinking us versus them, or that you have to win?
That self-reflection can be tough, but you got to face it to change it.
Exactly. Once you see those win-lose patterns, you can start challenging them.
Okay, how?
Ask yourself, is there a way everyone can get what they need? A solution that benefits everyone?
So come at it with an open mind, actually wanting to find a solution that works.
Yeah. This goes back to habit one, being proactive. You can't make someone else think win-win, but you can approach things that way.
Right.
You might be surprised how people react when they feel heard and like their needs matter.
This is making a lot of sense. This feels like a good lead-in to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
It's all about communication, but Covey is talking about empathic listening, really getting someone else's perspective before you try to make your point.
That feels super important now. Everyone's just shouting their opinions online. It's like
Mm.
we've forgotten how to listen.
So true. It's easy to stay in your own bubble with people who already agree with you, but being effective in life and work means connecting with people who see things differently.
It's not just being polite. It's about actually putting yourself in someone else's shoes, seeing the world the way they see it.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? Is it just nodding and saying, uh-huh?
There's more to it than that. Covey breaks empathic listening into 4 levels, starting basic and going deeper.
Okay, walk me through it.
The first level, and the least effective, is mimicking content, just repeating what the other person says.
So if my teenager says school is so boring, I just say, you think school is boring? Not exactly
Yeah.
deep.
Right, it's a start, but it doesn't show understanding.
Okay.
The next level is rephrasing content, summarizing what you heard in your own words to show you're trying.
So in the school example, I could say, you sound really unhappy with school.
Yes.
That's more engaging, like I'm trying to get it.
Right, and the third level goes even further. It's called reflecting feeling, and it's about understanding the emotions behind the words.
Okay.
So you might say, it sounds like you're feeling uninspired and maybe trapped at school.
Ah, now we're getting somewhere. You're acknowledging the feelings.
Right. It creates a connection.
Yeah.
The fourth level is reflecting both feeling and content, combining everything to show a really deep understanding.
Yeah.
You could say, so you're feeling uninspired by the classes and how school is structured, and it's making you question the whole point.
That's powerful stuff. Like
Yeah.
you're showing them you really get them.
Exactly. And when it's genuine, empathic listening can change relationships. It builds trust, eases tension, and helps you find solutions that work for everyone.
This habit could be a game changer. But I can see how it's hard to do. It takes patience, self-awareness, and being willing to put your own stuff aside to focus on the other person.
You're right, it's a skill you have to practice. But Covey says it's worth it. Better communication, stronger relationships, more collaboration.
This feels like the perfect setup for Habit 6 Synergize. All about collaboration, right?
Exactly. Covey says synergy is the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
It's creating something new and better together, where the combined effort is more than what each person could do alone.
Like a band making music that's way better than what any of them could do by themselves.
Perfect example, like the Beatles. Each of them was talented, but together they created magic.
I love that. So how do we get that kind of synergy in our own lives, whether it's at work, in our relationships, or even just personal growth?
Covey says it starts with valuing and using differences. Realizing each person brings something unique, and those differences, if you embrace them, can lead to really innovative solutions.
So don't see differences as problems, see them as strengths and opportunities.
Yes. And Covey tells the story about a college class where the students didn't want to work together at first. They were from different backgrounds, had different opinions, and were used to competing.
Yeah, that's a lot of college classes.
But when they finally opened up to each other, something amazing happened.
What happened?
One student, who was usually quiet, shared some personal stuff about his family.
Okay.
And that changed everything. The other students saw his honesty, they dropped their guard and started sharing too. The class went from judgment and competition to empathy and teamwork.
Wow, being vulnerable can be the key to real connection and collaboration.
It's not just brainstorming, it's about creating a space where people feel safe to share, even if their ideas are different.
That makes sense. It all ties back to seeking to understand, right?
Exactly. When you understand someone's point of view, you're more likely to see value in their ideas, even if you don't agree at first.
Empathic listening creates the foundation for synergy.
Exactly. And synergy leads to better solutions and effectiveness.
This is all clicking into place. Covey says synergy isn't just for work, it's a way of life.
Yeah, approaching everything with openness, curiosity, and embracing those differences.
Mind-blowing. Okay, last but not least, habit 7, sharpen the saw. Sounds more practical, like taking care of yourself.
I got it. It's about renewing yourself, making sure you have the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy to live an effective life.
Like they say on airplanes, put on your own oxygen mask first.
Exactly. Covey says taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential to be effective in everything you do.
Okay.
He breaks self-renewal into 4 areas: physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional.
Let's break it down. What's physical self-renewal? More than just hitting the gym and eating your vegetables, right?
Those are important, but it's also about listening to your body, getting enough sleep, managing stress, and doing things that make you feel good.
What kind of things?
Covey tells a story about a doctor who prescribed a stressed-out patient to listen to the sea for 3 hours a day.
Wow, that's different.
But it's about finding what recharges you.
Right.
And spiritual renewal is about connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
Whether that's through religion, meditation, being in nature, or helping others, it's about taking care of your inner self.
What about mental renewal?
Yeah.
Sudoku and brain teasers.
Those can help, but Covey focuses on always learning new things.
Okay,
Reading, exploring ideas, challenging yourself intellectually.
got it.
He suggests making reading a habit, trying to get to a book a week.
A book a week. That's a lot, but it would definitely keep you sharp.
It would.
What about social emotional renewal? What's that all about?
It's about your relationships, connecting with people, and becoming more emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
Covey really emphasizes service, giving back to your community and the world.
So it's about recognizing that we're all connected and finding ways to make a difference.
Exactly. Social and emotional renewal isn't a once-a-year thing like a vacation.
Yeah.
It's about consistently putting effort into your relationships every day, being empathetic, kind, and compassionate.
This habit seems like it ties everything together. If you take care of yourself, you create that foundation for living a good and effective life.
That's a great way to put it. Habit 7 reminds us that self-care isn't a luxury. It's essential to be your best self in everything you do. So where do we go from here? I'm sure after all that, a lot of people are thinking, okay, great ideas, but how do I actually do this stuff?
Yeah. It's a lot to take in. Where to even start?
You don't have to do it all at once. Covey actually says you shouldn't.
Okay.
Focus on one habit at a time, really get it down before moving on.
Don't try to change everything overnight.
Right. Think of building a house. You start with the foundation, brick by brick.
Okay.
If you try to do the roof and walls at the same time, it'll all fall apart.
Makes sense. But how do you pick which habit to start with? They all seem pretty important.
Pick the one that speaks to you the most, the one that's about something you're struggling with right now.
Okay.
Maybe you're feeling stuck and need to be more proactive. Or you have communication problems in your relationships and need to get better at listening.
So find the area where you need the most work and start there.
Exactly. And once you've picked, commit to practicing that habit every day.
Yeah.
Don't expect to change overnight. It takes time and effort.
Like they say, excellence is a habit, not an act.
Right. And Covey has tons of examples of how to use each habit in your everyday life, whether you're a parent, an employee, a spouse, whatever.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that trip people up when they try to do this stuff?
The biggest one is probably just resisting change. We all have our habits and the way we do things, and it's hard to break out of those even when we know they're not good for us.
It's like fighting your own autopilot, right?
Yes. And then there's the people around you who might not get it, the people who aren't into this whole 7 habits thing.
Oh, yeah, the eye rollers.
You'll get skepticism, negativity, people who are stuck in that win-lose way of thinking.
How do you deal with that without getting discouraged?
Covey says to lead by example. Don't preach the 7 habits, just live them.
Walk the walk, not talk the talk.
Exactly. You can't control other people, only yourself. Focus on your own circle of influence, and maybe you'll inspire others just by how you act.
Okay, I like that. Focus on yourself, not trying to fix everyone else.
Right.
I feel a lot more confident about putting this into practice now, taking it one step at a time.
Good. And remember, this personal growth stuff, it's a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
You never really arrive, you just keep learning and growing. Enjoy the process, be patient, and celebrate the small wins.
Great advice. And anyone who wants to learn more about the 7 habits, there's a link to buy the book in the description below.
Yes,
And for more awesome book summaries, check out the One Book a Day YouTube channel.
it's a great way to keep learning.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people. I hope you feel inspired to start your own personal growth journey.
Me too.
Remember, it starts with one small step, one choice, to be more proactive and principle-centered.
And maybe by living these habits, we can make a real difference, not just in our own lives, but in the world.
I love that idea. Until next time, keep diving.